The At Your Insta podcast is brought to you by Comictown. Check them out at www.comictown.net or search for Comictown Gaming Center on Facebook. Hello, and welcome to At Your End Step. My name is Morgan, and I'm here with Dave. And Mike. And Mike's refrigerator, if you can hear in the background. It's currently running. You should go catch it.
Boo.
All right, well, we have another fun-filled episode for you guys this week.
I quit.
Just one. Too bad you can't. We're recording a little bit early because Mike has something to do in the middle of the week. It's going to take him all weekend, and I don't even... Whatever. It's about a pro tour.
Yeah.
What are you touring?
We're mostly touring the Upper Midwest. We go in, we go rock the house, we play some shows, we party all night.
I don't know what accent you slipped into
midstream. I'm trying to go so the idea is to really, because Spinal Tap teaches you can just make a really bad accent, and that counts as an accent if you're a rock star. You know what I mean?
I guess that's true. That's true. Fair enough. No, Mike obviously is going to the pro tour this week on our normal recording day of Wednesday. So we cannot record on Wednesday. We can't do a flight cast, unfortunately.
No, I'll be leaving on a jet plane. So
no. Don't know when I'll be back again.
No, I'll be back on Monday.
Oh, okay. But never mind.
But hey, that's good for the listeners because they get At Your End Step a couple days early.
Yeah, a little bit early.
At Your End Step at your convenience.
Or inconvenience if you wanted something to listen to on Thursday.
Well, you could wait. They don't have to be.
Yeah.
What is it, little kids with presents? I really need something to do on Thursday.
Do not
hit play. I can't wait.
Do not press play until Thursday night.
They definitely can't wait. Come on, it's us. We're irresistible.
Simply
irresistible.
I'm gonna sorry. This has just been nonstop bad song references.
It's very true. Anyway. Like I said, only a couple of community segments for this week's show. We definitely want to talk about the Invitational as well as the GPs that happened over the weekend and the Opens and the Classics and what have you. So plenty of tournaments and deck lists to talk about. After that, we want to talk a little bit about Mike's trip and some of the preparation that he has done for it, and then our typical wrap-up stuff. So without ado, let's move into our first community topic. So Star City Games actually recently released a statement regarding the North Carolina House Bill 2 and Grand Prix Charlotte. I always do that. That's terrible.
I just want you to say that pun is really weird with the topic at hand.
Very true. I apologize. That was me being unable to speak clearly, as you all are very familiar with anyway. So basically, what the article was mainly about is, kind of giving you the floor plan of the convention center, and kind of identifying where the bathrooms were within the venue. If you don't know what House Bill 2 is for North Carolina, it is obviously a political issue. It is touchy. I do encourage you to read up on it and be educated about it, so you can at least form a opinion about it on your own terms, basically. But basically, it is a bill that people are definitely in two camps on, and it's causing a lot of businesses that would normally support North Carolina to not basically do this anymore, due to how this bill is treating some people that are employees of these companies that would be affected.
Well, and patrons.
Yeah, of course, patrons as well. So. With that being the case, Star City Games, it's good to come out ahead on this, and because as we know, there are a lot of Magic players and even prominent Magic players within our community that are transgender, and it's something that I feel, being a Magic player, you probably have come in contact with more often, in all honesty.
Yeah, I think the reason I definitely wanted to make mention of this article, again, we tend to try to toe the line, at least talking politics in here, but I will say, at least definitively for myself, that this bill is frustrating and is similar to a number of bills that have at least been considered or are being passed in some states.
Correct.
And it's frustrating because it creates a problem where there wasn't one, and it comes out of, at least it seems to come out of fear of people who don't who don't know anything about this situation, and they're just like, oh well, I don't want people, the opposite gender in my bathroom, and it's like, well, that's not how this works, and nothing's gonna happen to you, and there's no data that supports something's gonna happen. So how about you calm down, right? And then you look at like Magic, which is definitely planted in the counterculture, and so serves a really diverse group of people. So you hit the nail on the head here that you're gonna have people of all different types here, and you want to ensure that like they have, as customers and as people who are going into this large public environment, have feel safe, feel welcome and accommodated for. And I really do think that they are doing a good job here, at least trying to. They set up some unisex bathrooms that are specifically set up for for this purpose. But I thought it was interesting though, because like there's been a number of Georgia was going to pass a bill similar to this, and then you had a couple of companies just threaten to pull out entirely, like we're not going to support this, and they vetoed it.
Yeah.
And now in North Carolina, you have like the NCAA Final Four considering pulling out of there. And now, like if you look here, I'm going to quote Ben Bleiweiss in the comments section of this article, where he said that GP Charlotte is presently the last scheduled event we have in the state of North Carolina. I've been in the planning meetings for season 3 of our SCG Tour, and I can state for a fact that this law factored heavily in our decision making for season 3 SCG Tour locations, and that was prompted on the questioning of why not just pull out of this event. Obviously, when you have these events planned as far in advance, this isn't a Star City event. Technically, it's a WotC event they're running. I think it is a little ludicrous to say we'll just cancel the event. But you can tell, like for Star City, that read between the lines there. That sounds like North Carolina is not getting it open in season 3. Correct. Or an invitational, right? And who knows what Wizards' decision will be from here. GP Charlotte has been a yearly thing the last 3 years. We've been in the last 2.
Yeah.
So, I would not be surprised if casually you just don't see GP Charlotte next year. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's GP. So I don't know. Just pick a different city in a surrounding state. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, like Charleston.
Yeah, Charleston. You know what I mean? So it's I don't know. I think that this is it's a delicate subject that they want to hit on. And they want to make sure they're supporting their people, and I do think that North Carolina and the politicians that passed this law, they're gonna have to sort of these are consequences, and you can say, oh well, Star City's not that. Well, Star City and WotC actually do represent a fair amount of money, and they represent one of many companies. So it'll be interesting to see how this continues to play forward. But I say good on Star City for addressing it, going out of their way to make sure that they had this. I agree. Being ahead of the curve. Morgan.
Yeah, that's basically what I was going to say. I don't have too much to add to that.
So,
and the last thing I want to leave on is like, if this is something that does wear you out, I have to tell you something. You've probably shared a bathroom with a transgender person and nothing happened to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, guarantee that has happened in your life and nothing's happened to you. I promise.
Right. So, get over it.
So, and I'm not going to sit here and tell someone like, because everyone get like, I want to feel the way I feel, but it's like, well, you can feel however you want to feel, but you are literally infringing on people's ability to feel comfortable. You know what I mean? And it doesn't affect you, as you just said, pretty much in any way. So I would definitely, in these situations where you see like, oh, I don't understand why people are upset about this, just try to put yourself in their shoes. You know what I mean? That's difficult to do, and empathy can be a hard emotion to to understand. But it really, good. Just good on Star City.
Yeah, for sure. So moving on, we have a sort of a secondary a community issue that is very short, and it involves the last round of GP.
So technically, round 14 was the issue, correct?
Or round 14 was the actual issue, or 15.
Hold on, I'm reloading it to make sure.
Yeah, it says after pairing round 15, the match results from round 14 were missing.
Oh,
I don't know what that means.
They just
but
left?
apparently they just deleted themselves.
bye.
And then, so
basically, due to this issue, once everything had been fixed, it turns out that one of the players, the player that got 9th place, actually should have gotten 8th place, which is awkward. But basically what they did was they matched his prize to the lowest top 8 prize. So instead of getting paid as a 9th through 16th, he got paid for basically losing the first round of top 8. And he also qualified for Pro Tour Honolulu.
Well, so yeah, he was already qualified for.
But he got a flight.
Yeah,
That's
so he
what
got
it
a
was.
flight as well, which was nice. I still think my only issue is I think they should have paid him more. Like, give him at least the average. Like, just don't assume like, oh well, we messed up, but we knew you were going to lose in top 8. Like, you could say,
Who
oh,
you paired against? Huey. Oh yeah, you would have lost.
like I
It
understand.
has
like,
been seen.
like they can say like, oh well, we didn't have to pay him this, but you also could have just paid him more because it's your software that continues to have these sorts of issues.
Right.
Like this like it's a cool fix, but it's not. Like I'd have to go back and look. I wonder if it's just him. Like, did it affect somebody from cashing down in the lower portions? Did they fix that? How many people's breakers changed? You know what I mean? Like that. These are weird things that should not be happening at the week before the Pro Tour. You know what I mean? Like it's bad.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, when I read this, I was like, oh, you know what? Well, that's a pretty good fix. I mean, given the circumstances, I mean, they can only do so much, and I thought that was like a good compromise. But then I thought about it, and I was like, well, if I was that guy, I'd still be pretty mad. Like,
Yeah, I would be really angry.
so, because I mean, it's not just it's not just the prize money or the qualification, but you could say like, hey, I top aided a GP.
Well,
Oh wait, well, technically I top aided a GP, but it says that I finished 9th.
So,
but
I hope that he I hope he's qualified for Madrid. I don't know if he is or isn't, obviously. But I hope he is. I hope he.
I was gonna say that the name it's Jonas Freiberg from Sweden.
I'm a big fan of that song.
It's not that song. Don't scream out. Play Freeberg at your next concert.
Yeah.
They won't understand. Anyway, but no, I hope that he top 8s the Pro Tour if he's qualified, and then they have to read out his accolades, and it's sort of top 8 a Grand Prix.
I hope that so I feel like they make a joke with him about that too. Like, so funny story, you kind of top 8'd last week, and I hope he would just stay just straight faced, be like, "Yep, that happened."
Yes, that is correct. I definitely top 8'd this Pro Tour though, so can't take that away from me.
Actually, we just looked. The breakers are, "I will kill you."
I will end you.
Do you see these eyes? These aren't laughing eyes. These are murder eyes.
That's an awkward thing that can happen with.
No, it shouldn't happen. It did happen. So
That
it
can
can
happen,
But this,
yes.
we should not treat this like, yeah, it can happen. No.
It shouldn't
This should
happen.
be a huge issue for them. Like, okay, we fixed it, and then behind the scenes, they should be on, like, we gotta fix the software now. Is that new CEO here yet? we need a new digital platform right now.
We need his Microsoft Magic. Oh man. Anyway, let's move on. So that's all the community stuff we had to talk about. Let's slide into the competitive segment here. First, we want to talk about the GPs that happened because they're all limited, and there's only so much you can obviously talk about a limited GP. But there's some interesting ones. We want to first hit on GP Beijing, which had 1,056 players. It was won by Hironobu Sugiya, and playing a Black Red Vampires draft deck. Makihito Mihara and Kentaro Yamamoto were also notables in the top 8.
Of course they were.
Because it was an Asia Pacific GP, and they decided to go. So congrats to them.
I feel like Yamamoto in particular has been on a hot streak the last couple of years.
Well, there you go.
And he's pretty good.
Maybe he
from
shifts
what
up
I've seen.
higher in your Pro Tour drafts.
For sure.
If that's something that you do.
For sure. He's on that team he's on the same team as Yuya Watanabe. They're on they're supported by some company that does esports or something, I believe. I don't have the name of it, so I apologize, but there were 5 of them. Who's the other Yuki Ichikawa?
Yuki
I think was
Ichikawa.
also on that team. So they have a nice little team for the Pro Tour. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him do well.
Fair enough. The other GP that happened that we already talked about a little bit was GP Barcelona. It had 2,084 players. And obviously this one probably had a lot of people that were already in town for the Pro Tour, obviously. As we can even see in the top 8. But it was taken down by Fabrizio Antiri with his 5th GP win and 10th top 8. That's a pretty good average. You win about half the GPs you top 8.
Yeah. The crazy thing with him too is he hasn't been on the pro scene for that long. He's only been for maybe 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just crazy. Like it seems like every other European GP, it's like, oh yeah, Fabrizio and Terry just just crushed it.
I'm actually looking at the prize money right now. I was told incorrectly. I guess 2,500 is for 3rd or 4th place.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
I take it all back. If you were like yelling at the podcast, like "No, idiot," I apologize. I take it back. I am. I guess.
There. At
So,
least they assumed he won his first round.
there you go. There we assume he was assumed to top 4. Still doesn't fix it, but it is better than just assumed to lose in the top 8. Sorry.
But the top. Interior drafted a red-white aggro deck, which if that's something you want to take a look at draft decks, you can. We're pretty much against that on this podcast. Looking at other people's draft decks.
Well, I mean, we could talk a little bit more about limited when we talk about the Pro Tour prep.
Yes.
But yeah, I at least in my experience, red-white aggro isn't really one of the archetypes, but I guess it's something you could draft. But his deck was pretty sweet.
It's an archetype.
Yeah, because you have Nahiri's Machinations.
Yeah, it gets a gold card technically to play around with.
Okay.
So and a dual land technically.
Yeah,
sure. Common slot. So it's a thing. It's definitely not pushed like others are, but it's there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it doesn't like hit you in the face like some of the other archetypes.
Sure.
But the top 8 was also stacked with so many notable names here for the Pro Tour. We had William Jensen, Reed Duke, BBD, and Sean McLaren also in the top 8, which is that's a pretty good top 8.
Yeah, it's spicy.
Yeah,
and BBD locked up gold status. So
Sweet.
congrats to him. He didn't win the tournament, but he locked up gold, so I'm sure he'll take that.
Yeah. And honestly, this is a really nice top 8 for Channel Fireball overall, right?
Yeah.
Because you have Jensen, Duke, and BBD. Does the interior rate for anyone? Do we know?
I don't know. He's wearing a tournament center shirt, but I don't know if that means anything.
I don't think he does. I don't think I remember seeing his articles anywhere. But
yeah, he's just a really good limited player, and
yeah, it shows.
Surprising to me that he hasn't broken through on the Pro Tour yet. He hasn't had a Pro Tour top 8, but he's won 5 GPs.
Well, what better time than now?
Yeah.
And then lastly, we have GP Albuquerque. It had a total of 1,266 players. Alan Wu was victorious in it, playing blue-black stuff.
Yeah, blue-black dudes and spells.
Good old blue-black dudes and spells. Typical archetype for this format. Kinda, not really, no.
It's usually one or the other.
The person who took second, William Craddock. Why do I remember his name?
You know what? I saw that too. I was like, I don't.
Was he the guy who played the Ravens Crime, Relentless Assault build early in Modern, it won GP Omaha or something like that?
No idea. I think in his profile he didn't have any other GP top 8s. I want to say. I could be wrong.
I don't know. His name's really familiar. I apologize. This isn't helping anybody who's listening, but
yeah, the name did sound familiar, but I can't put my finger on what.
His occupation is bond agent, so maybe the reason we cannot remember him is because
he's a spy. He's good at his job.
But there's some other big names in here too. Sorry about that first. So we could have Seth Manfield here and Jason Tao.
Yeah. He's like, hey, remember me? I won that last Pro Tour. Yeah.
I'm still here. Still here.
Still around. Yeah. And both those guys are on Team East West Bowl, which we'll see if they can. We'll see if they can continue their success that they had at GP Oath of the Gatewatch or Pro Tour Oath of the Gatewatch. But
yeah, I know that he's done other things. I really feel like, but maybe it's from the Star City Game Circuit or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. When I Google him, all it comes up is GP Albuquerque. So.
Yeah. Anyway,
maybe we're all just going crazy.
We are.
I'm sorry, Mr. Craddock. If
oh, it's certainly a compelling 3 minutes. All right, let's
yeah,
continue.
No. Anyway,
do I know this guy?
I think I know this guy.
I think I know this guy.
He sounds familiar.
Hey, you know this guy?
You know Johnny? Yeah.
you know Willie,
we went to school together.
Willie Craddock?
Anyway, so moving on, let's go ahead and dive into the Invitational. So the Invitational was in Columbus. It was right in our backyard. It had a total of 752 players, which is the largest Invitational that they've ever had. And I imagine that the number goes down from here. I really feel.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
It was standard and modern, so it was a split format event, and it was a total of 16 rounds between
Yep.
2 days. And it was won by no one here, unfortunately. Sorry, guys. Hate to break your hearts. But it was won by Max McVetti, playing Mono White Humans in Standard. And he was also playing Infect in Modern. He defeated Greg Krempels, which you might be refamiliarized since he has done coverage recently.
Yeah, he did coverage for Star City Baltimore, which was the week before. So you might have seen him doing commentary, and then the next week you saw him in the finals of the Invitational. So apparently doing commentary doesn't necessarily take away your play skill,
Right.
as some people might think.
Also, we see that Jerry Thompson and Logan Mize were also in the top 8. So good on them. And then Jerry Thompson, Jeff Huglen, and Andrew Tendrum locked their spots for the Players' Championship as well. So congrats to them. Now, have you guys taken... obviously, taking a look at the top 8 doesn't really necessarily, paint the whole picture for decks. Cause
For standard, it does.
Sure, I guess we can say that. For standard, it seemed that the room was dominated by mono white humans or humans in general with various splashes, and mainly Bant Company is apparently still really good. So its demise was a bit overblown, as it were.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about just like our experience at the Invitational?
I mean, we can.
So I was just excited because, for those that don't know, Morgan and myself were the ones that participated in the Invitational. Mike sat that one out. But we both managed to play on Saturday, so that was an achievement.
We day-two'd.
Yeah, it was the first time I've day-two'd one of these things.
Also the first time that I've day-two'd. I don't know how I've never day-two'd an open, but I now have day-two'd an invitational.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So you finished. You were 6-2.
6-2.
6-2 on day one. And I was 5-3. I had to win my last 3 rounds to squeak in, but I managed to do it. I played blue-white humans in standard, and I played blue-red delver in modern, and went. Overall, I was a perfectly mediocre 4-4 in standard after the full 8 rounds. Played against Bant Company 5 times, including all 4 rounds on day 2. I played against Bant Company. Went 3-2 against it. I did feel like it was a favorable matchup, maybe a little bit more than 3-2. Had like some awkward draws where like the blue-white humans deck is... it does have some flexibility in like some of the sideboard cards that you can play, so you can play like counter spells or Dragon Lord Dogetai and things like that, but you do give up some percentage with your mana because you do get those games where you're going to have your lands come to play tapped, and it really does make a difference, especially in that matchup, I feel like. So probably lost at least one match to Band Company that I felt like it was winnable because of the mana issues, but I mean, I think, either whether it be mono white humans or blue white humans, I think it's going to be here to stay. And Bant Company obviously is huge right now.
Yeah,
we'll see if that carries over to the Pro Tour or not. I would bet not, but we'll see.
As for my experience, standard was not my game over the weekend. Day 1 I went 2-2, and then during day 2 I went 1-3 with the standard deck, which I played blue-white Eldrazi, and I don't know what it necessarily was. I don't think that maybe my main deck was set up correctly, or just got unlucky, or just played poorly. It was likely to just play poorly. Part of that equation that kind of fell into place. But I played Bird in Modern, and I almost 7-1 and almost got my deck list published. I went 6-2 with Burn, having never played the deck previously.
Skill game.
Just picked it up.
Dude, like the people that say like red is like a skill Like you're not doing those people any favors right now. You're just like,
I
just
know.
picked it up and went said like 6-2.
To be fair, I do tend to lean towards aggressive decks. I tend to play better with aggressive decks, and it really showed that I have more of a mindset for that kind of game than the other ways to play Magic, which is like a downside for me. I mean, I'd like to be able to branch out and play other decks, but I just don't play them as well as some other people do. So, but yeah, my last round in Modern was against Jading Comparons, and she was my last loss, unfortunately, to make me 6-2 instead of the coveted 7-1. But there are a couple of other awesome 7-1 burn lists on the Modern deck lists. If you want to check them out, including Bob Culp. He's a Midwest grinder, so he's 7-1 with burn better in the Invitational. So definitely playing burn forever now, though, until it gets really bad, which it might do in Modern. I don't know, but it was real sweet, and I really liked it. It was great.
Yeah, I ended up playing Delver because
because you don't know how to quit Delver.
I know. I can't help myself.
He was like, I had to play against Jund so many times. I don't know why Jund is being played.
That's not what I said.
I know. I just have
so no. Like I legitimately like tried another deck. I tried Jeskai Control at the local.
He played a Monday
town.
Night Modern event and said, I don't like this deck, and I was
It
trying.
wasn't very good.
I was trying the deck.
I was trying it.
Matches. I was trying it.
Yeah. If you know, like after playing a couple matches, like if the deck like feels good or like you feel like there's some power there or like it just didn't feel right, and it was probably the configuration. Like I played a version similar to if you look at Sean McLaren's list on Star City Premium today. It's basically your win conditions are basically Celestial Colonnades, Sapcaster Mages, and Goblin Dark Dwellers, and that just makes for just really grindy games, and it's really hard to close things out. So, what I was finding was that I was able to reasonably control the game or like deal with my opponent's threats, but then I would just kind of sit there and not do anything, and then they would climb back into the game and eventually win, even with something that's not even really that threatening. So I just wasn't really impressed with it. I do think Jeskai Control could be good, and you probably want to play Restoration Angel if you're going to play that deck. But in any case, I didn't really have any other time to test any other deck, so just went with old reliable for a 5-3 record in Modern Delver.
I didn't have any time to test any deck either.
Well, okay, cool. I also don't have Goblin Guides and stuff, but
that's true.
Yeah, like Mike alluded to, I ended up playing Jund is one of the worst matchups for Delver, and I played it 3 times. Went 1-2 against it, and then my only other loss was to a Living End deck, which I kind of punted, so I deserve that loss. But I think in general it's a good matchup for Delver. But yeah, I mean the deck felt it was fine. Still going to be looking for other options. I just don't think the power's there for that deck, and especially if Jund's still going to be one of the top decks, it's probably a bad idea. But
yeah. So I did want to make mention that I did place higher than Dave, so get wrecked, Dave. I also wanted to make mention. So what did I lost to Ad Nauseum, and I lost to Grixis Control, and that was what Jadine was playing. So even though that should theoretically be a favorable matchup, she definitely played really, 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 really well, without a doubt. So I don't necessarily feel that bad. I kind of played the game the way that I had to, and it just ended up not working out for me in the end. So.
Yeah, speaking of playing really well, that's like the opposite of what I did at the Invitational. Definitely found myself like, especially on day 1, I think I tightened up a little bit on day 2. But day 1, it was like every single match, I was just like, finding mistakes that I was making during the game. I was like, man, I gotta I don't know. Like there was one especially egregious bad play where my opponent was tapped out, and I had an Archangel of Ties in play and an Always Watching, and then I just didn't attack with everything, even though he couldn't possibly block any of my creatures. So that was cool, and then I ended up losing that game because he was at 2. So that was
Wow.
that was really good. Yeah.
I also do want to mention that even though I ended up losing this match, I definitely got to force a game 3 against Ad Nauseam when he had 2 Leon Sanctities out and a Phyrexian on life. I won that game.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. I had Nacatls in my burn list, so that helps out a lot because you're like, well, I'll just attack you for 3 a bunch. So that was sweet. I had a good time doing that.
Yeah, I will say like the sweetest thing that I got to do was against the second Jund opponent. So this is when I was 2-3, had to win out, and in game 3 against Jund, I'm at 1, my opponent's at 10, and my hand is Dismember Lightning Bolt, and I have a Storm Chaser Mage in play. He has no way to block it, and my draw for the turn was a remand, so he was going to kill me in the next turn because he had like 4 attackers. I couldn't block them all or kill them. So my out was I had to cast Lightning Bolt, remand my own Lightning Bolt, and try to draw another burn spell. And then I drew the second Lightning Bolt to, bolt him twice and then have 4 prowess and attack for the win. So that was pretty awesome. But so I made it to day 2, but then, day 2 was kind of all downhill.
Yeah. Picking up the 3 losses in standard as well as the 2 in modern were kind of disappointing, especially since I went 4-0 in modern. Day 1, which is pretty enlightening experience. I don't know, it felt pretty good to do that. I'm not very good at Magic, and when you can do that, it's nice.
Enlightening.
Yeah, you see what I did there?
Nice enlightening bold experience.
Yeah.
Anyway, but enough about our experiences. The Invitational was run really well. I had a pretty good time. It never felt like anything was went on too long, in all honesty. But yeah, it's great, and it'll probably be my last one for a little bit. So
yeah, I played. Even though my record wasn't that impressive, finishing 9-7, I played a lot of like really interactive and fun matches, even though like some of the ones that I lost, like I played, there were matches where like all 3 games were good, and like that's hard to find sometimes. So
there was a lot of that. I had a lot of good game 3s and stuff like that, which was very, very nice. So yeah, I'm excited to go play some more Burn, figure out what I want to play in standard, maybe or maybe not. I don't know.
We'll see what happens at the Pro Tour, I guess.
Yeah,
I had an enjoyable day 2.
Yeah.
I did day 2 of the tournament because I've been playing it, but I had an enjoyable day 2.
Yeah, you went undefeated in drafts?
Yeah, I went 3-0 in drafts, like overall. That was really fun. I drafted an Archangel Avacyn first draft. That was cool.
Yeah.
And I also finished putting together both Kiki Cord and the stuff to make Giftstron back into Thopter Giftstron. So
ooh, Giftstron, that's what I could play.
Yeah, by all means. Yeah.
All right, I'll ship you a standard deck. You ship me modern so I could play in states this weekend.
Yeah. Sure.
All right. Everybody wins.
Great. I hope everyone wins.
Right.
That's what I want.
All right.
All right. So let's talk about the Standard Open. It had a total of 591 players. It was won by Josh Dickerson playing Green Red Ramp, which is kind of a weird one to see. Not completely unbelievable, but definitely something that a lot of people had written off as not being the powerhouse that it may have been rumored to be in the when the format was when rotation was being discussed. But his list is certainly decisive in what he is playing. Like we see 4 Jadi Offshoot, 4 World Breaker, 4 Ulamog, and those are his creatures. Like that is it. And then we see 3 Chandra, and then a bunch of ramp spells, and then Kozilek's returns. 4
Nissa renewals seems good too. Like man. Just like, I'm making sure I'm casting one of these little logs and I'm staying alive to do it.
Right. Now, in the sideboard, he has through Tireless Tracker. Now, Tireless Tracker is pretty interesting interaction with Nissa's Renewal, as well as, Nissa's Pilgrimage and Explosive Vegetation. So I don't necessarily know what he brought that in for, but...
Well, so I was looking at this earlier, and so it looks like he has a package that he can bring in where he can become a little bit more aggressive.
Gotcha.
So he has 4 Thought-Knot Seers as well on the sideboard, so he could kind of go semi-transformational and bring in the Thought-Knot Seers and the Tireless Tracker, and maybe even the 4th Chandra Flamecaller to just go more. I guess, maybe board out some of the Ulamogs or something like that to try to go like a more mid-rangey type deck, which is pretty cool, and I'm sure that served him well, through the tournament.
Yeah, I mean, I have to imagine that even like Jotty offshoots probably are not necessarily the best to always have in your main deck. You probably side those out for the 4 Thought-Knot Seer. You probably make that switch a lot.
Oh yeah, of course. So it's like you said. I think everybody, going into like week 1 standard, everybody expected green red ramp to be a thing because it didn't really lose a lot in the rotation, and then it didn't really perform well in Baltimore. And I think everybody, for the most part, kind of wrote it off like, oh well, ramp's just not as good as we thought it was going to be. So you can kind of trim these sideboard cards out for that deck. You don't really need to worry about it. And it's like, oh well, actually, looks like it is still good enough to take down the tournament. So now. That being said, I do not expect this type of strategy to do well at the Pro Tour. It's typically not really something pros gravitate to, just because a lot of times it's pretty draw dependent. You can get awkward draws when you're playing any kind of ramp style deck. But I do think it'll be part of the metagame going forward. Yeah. It probably won't be the best deck, but
people will play it.
Yeah,
especially since they have a lot of the cards already.
Absolutely.
We also see Tom Ross showing up in top 8 with Boss Humans. And then Noah Walker as well, playing a blue-red tutelage. So, playing some Chandras, playing some Sphinx's tutelages.
What's so boss about Boss Humans?
What's so boss about Boss Humans?
22 1-drops like a boss.
just all of them.
All of them, including 3 Anointer of Champions.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what that card is, it's basically infantry veteran, which is an old school white weenie staple, but it's a 1-drop 1/1 human cleric that taps to give target attacking creature +1/+1 until end of turn.
What makes that card really good?
Always watching.
Yeah.
So
Vigilance.
You can attack for 2 and then pump itself, make it a 3/3 attacker.
Yeah,
that's pretty sweet. Yeah, Tom Ross on Twitter said it was pretty good. It messed up combat for his opponents. So this is this I really like this list actually overall. It's a very low to the ground, obviously. Just playing 18 planes, million 1-drops. Yeah, I mean it's just basically trying to be as aggressive as possible, which is we've seen Tom Ross do this from time to time. But
that'll mean forever, always. Tom Ross
not
aggressive
always,
as possible.
Not always. He played like Black White Eldrazi last week.
Oh well, we all make mistakes. It's fine.
I guess when he's not playing the quote unquote team deck, then he's just
yeah. He's like, I'm gonna attack with creatures and kill my opponent.
Yeah, he's probably doing that gatherer search for white 1-drops. Ooh, Anointer of Champions. That looks good.
Sign me up.
Gatherer's like, welcome back, Craig Wesco.
Like, what? No.
No, that's the other guy.
It's actually one of the drop-down options in Gather. It's like
search for Craig Wesco.
It's the Craig Wesco filter. It's only white 1-drops, and then you just pick what format you're playing in.
Oh man, that's insane.
I think, and we see it in this deck, and also in the Invitational champ Max McVitie's deck. Griff Spoon is here to stay. Apparently, Griff Spoon is the real deal, and it was, pretty good from what I saw in the Invitational top 8. And Tom Ross is playing 2 in the main, and then he can board up to 4, after sideboard. So, yeah, definitely a card I did not expect to be a staple, but
here we are.
Looks like it is for real. So
deal with it. I mean, to be fair, like, think about it, they repeated Rancor a few years ago. Now, granted, Griff Spoon is not Rancor. That's not what I'm saying. But
no, but
the element
it's not
is still
that far
the same.
off.
No, it really isn't. Like flying is compared to trample, like in a white deck versus like a green stompy deck, is probably better. And so yeah, the recursion isn't free, but the ability to like have like an unblockable threat every turn, especially in the mirror if they don't have Archangel, pretty gross.
I mean, we talked about this last week. That just like there aren't that many flyers. I mean, there is Avacyn obviously, and Archangel of Ties is a big one, but there really aren't that many flyers overall in the format. So, you see Griff Spoon especially playing a big role in beating decks like Bant Company because they pretty much just have Avacyn end for their flyers.
Right.
It's also kind of cool that like it can protect you from a Jamoka's command, like sacrificing enchantments, so you can keep your always watching around. You can sack your Griff Spoon instead and then bring it back. So that kind of gives you a way to, you know, save your always watching from dying, or you know, a Silk Wrap or Stasis Snare or something like that if you're playing that. But anyway, I expect this particular version of Mono 8 Humans to pick up a lot of steam because of the name associated with it.
Sure. I don't know what I expect for Standard. Was it 19 of the 20 or 19 of the 32 top or what list or Band Company?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said last week like that I thought like Band Company was still in an awkward position because of its mana base, but people don't seem to care. It's the only 3-color deck that survived. Like Esper Dragons was in the Invitational but didn't do anything.
Yeah.
So I saw people start going as far as like on social media this weekend saying that like Reflector Mage is a mistake, and this deck may be Callblade. And I don't know how I feel about that. What do you think, Dave?
No, it's not. I mean, Bant Company can be beat, and especially like if you watch any of these matches between Mono White Humans and Bant Company, a lot of times it's just very apparent that the Humans deck is just too fast. It can get out to just such quick starts, and a lot of times Bant Company can stumble on its mana. You know, it can play tap lands on the first couple turns of the game. You know, by the time you actually play a card, your opponent might have 6 power on the board. You know what I mean? And I definitely, like, with myself playing Blue-White Humans, definitely found that a lot of the games played out that way. So, I mean, Bant Company can definitely be beat. Now, whether you can find a deck that beats both Bant Company and the aggressive Humans decks, that's going to be the trick.
Right.
I don't know what that deck looks like at this point, but I'm sure we'll find out. But can we just talk real quick about Noah Walker's deck?
Yes. No one's stopping you.
So he was playing blue-red control, but not the deck that we've seen. This isn't like the Todd Anderson Thing in the Ice deck. This is Sphinx's Tutelage. So, I mean, it has a lot of similar cards, though it's trying to win through milling out your opponent instead of killing with a Chandra or a Thing in the Ice. So definitely was surprised to see this do that well. I've seen some lists out there and wasn't very impressed with it, but Noah Walker's a pretty good player. He has a couple open wins under his belt, mostly in Legacy, but yeah, I mean, this is something. Now, looking at the deck, I wouldn't think it'd be that great against Humans, but I guess he was paired against Tom Ross in the top 8 and just crushed him. So
I mean, it's not surprising.
I guess I'm totally wrong on that, but
when you're playing a bunch of like 1-drop creatures, you're playing a bunch of X1s. Like, eventually, he does have a bunch of like cheap removal. He has Kozilek's Return, 1 main, 1 side, which is really important. But there's a lot of things that I think this deck has going for it when you're talking about fighting against a really low to the ground aggressive deck. I think important to note is like even Send to Sleep, like
yeah,
like that's a good tempo play, and like later on, like I assume that Send to Sleep gets turned on pretty early in this deck, so I feel like he has a lot of ways to stop that early rush, and then he can cement himself in the mid game.
Yeah. Chandra is just lights out against the Humans deck. Like they do not have an actual way to recover.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I played against 2. I guess the non-Bant Company matchups that I played against a red-white Eldrazi deck and a blue-red Eldrazi deck, and both of the game 3s I lost because my opponent cast Chandra. It was mostly because I didn't have enough pressure on. But yeah, when you get behind, like if you're ever behind, like or like you don't have really anything going on, and they just play a Chandra and plus, you're already dead, pretty much. Like
Yeah.
If you get behind on a Chandra, and you don't have like Anguish Unmaking or some way to actually directly remove it, and the only way you can remove it is by attacking, you're pretty much dead.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, this deck, like I said, it was a little surprising to see. He does have 4 Thing in the Ice on the sideboard, so I suppose he could switch out the tutelages for the Thing in the Ice if he wants to go the damage route. Though it's not playing the Pyromancer's Goggles, which is probably the most important card in the blue-red control deck, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to be the turbo flip a thing of the ice deck, but like,
Well, but even that, I mean, like the goggles just let you go crazy with just all the red card draw, the Magmatic Insight and the Tormenting Voice, but also it like lets you double up on all your removal spells. Like
yeah,
you
it's
can
still
just take
a
a 2 for
5-drop.
1. It is a 5-drop, but like I don't know, based on from what I've seen in coverage, it's like the games where you have the goggles and the games where you don't are just completely night and day.
Sure.
But obviously it worked pretty well for Noah here, finishing in top 4. So I don't know which version is better going forward, but this is a way that you could go with it. Some people like to mill, so
Some men must mill.
yeah.
Cool. There were also some nihilists that showed up here. The first one being Jacob Bard's list.
I mean, I know the format looks sad, but nihilists?
Nihilists. I see what you did there.
Thank you.
He's playing 4 Nahiri in his deck, that's a statement right there.
Yeah, Andy Ferguson also playing for Nahiri. And, yeah, I mean, the lists were pretty similar. I didn't, line them up side by side here, but I just kind of looked at both. So, I mean, they look to be pretty similar from what I saw. But I think, Andy Ferguson is somebody who, he was the progenitor of Bant Company in the previous format. And is somebody that has done pretty consistently well over the last couple of months on the Star City circuit. So I feel like, when you see him finish in the top 16, I feel like you should pay attention because the man knows what he's doing in Standard.
Managed to construct a playable 3-mana, or 3-mana, or 3-color mana base is what I want to say.
Yeah, yeah. And like I said, Jacob Bard also finishing in 12th with his version. I did notice Jacob's playing Lambholt Pacifist in his deck, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
That's the 2-mana 3/3 werewolf that can't attack unless you have a creature with power 4 or greater, but flips into a 4/4.
Seems sweet against humans.
Yeah. Yeah.
Back into this.
Yeah. And now the unfortunate thing, you would think a 3/3 would be great, but most of the time it's probably just trading because humans there's so many ways that they can pump their team, make their guys
I think
go
you're still
3/2s.
fine with that.
Oh yeah,
Your
yeah.
2-drop here trades, and then your Deathless Raptor trades, and then you're playing an Archangel Avis in the next turn or a turn after.
Mhm.
Then you're probably in an okay situation. And if you're Deathless Raptor and Dramoka's Command are still sweet because especially against humans, where you're just okay, well, Sack, you're always watching. This will fight this, and it's just oh.
Yeah. So I do have both the lists kind of lined up side by side here now. They are both playing Deathmist Raptor, Den Protector. Let's see here. They both have Sylvan Advocate. I feel like that's pretty much a staple at this point. Both have Nahiris. Andy Ferguson's playing Chandra Flamecaller, where Jacob's playing Nissa, Voice of Zendikar. One thing they both have is one Dragonlord Atarka, which is pretty cool. Obviously it's a big game if you get up to that point, but it's also something that you could fetch if you ever get to Nahiri's Ultimate.
Yeah.
So you can put your Atarka in play, and then return it back to your hand, and then do it again the next turn. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I have not seen these lists in action, so I'm not sure how they play out in reality. Though it seems like they have a lot of good cards against humans with Radiant Flames in the sideboard as well. So.
Yeah. And Nahiri is kind of nice with Deathmist Raptor, right? It functions the same way that Jace does.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's cool. Awesome. Yeah, this is an interesting take, something that you might get swept under the rug due to where it kind of landed. But you do have some people that like Andy Ferguson, who obviously knows how to play Band Company very well, choosing to play this over it. So maybe that means something.
I also like the Avacyn Judgments on the board of Jacob Bard's list, minus Nahiri.
Yeah.
Seems pretty sweet.
No, I know Jadine Comparens actually played something similar to this. Now I don't know what her exact list was, but in week 1 at the Baltimore Open, she did have Nahiri and Avacyn's Judgment in her deck somewhere. And she definitely had Deathmist Raptor, Den Protector. So this may not be a completely original list, but I don't know what her list was, or if I don't know if Jacob and Andy worked together. The list looked different enough where they probably weren't working together, I would say. But I mean, overall, the strategy is pretty much the same. But yeah, I mean, again, I haven't seen this deck in action, so I don't really know like how it lines up with the format. But it's definitely looks pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Has me excited.
Yeah, you've been known to play some Naya decks.
I have actually been known to play some Naya decks.
Yeah.
Man, if only they reprinted Huntmaster.
And
Please, Doctor. I don't think it's gonna happen. But maybe Ulrich will be cool.
Von Liechtenstein.
Yes. Let's move on to the Modern Classic here, and it was won by Charles Porges, playing Burning Tree Zoo. This is a pretty hot one, to say the least. Taking advantage of Reckless Bushwhacker is pretty sweet.
Reckless Bookworm.
Reckless Bookworm.
I'm just reading everywhere.
Reckless Bushwhacker.
reading with reckless abandon.
Anyway,
I'll read anything. It's a book burning. Also another card.
Card's real good with Burning Tree Emissary, turns out.
Burning Book Emissary?
Yeah, but Burning Book Emissary. But yeah, this is a pretty low to the ground zoo list that again takes advantage of that interaction that you have to really put out some high damage.
The beats. This deck was also popular in the Invitational as well. There are a couple 7-1 lists here. So this deck, as I said before, I've always really enjoyed this list, and it has some draws that are just like if you're an opponent and they're crushing you, you have no chance. So it's sweet.
So this is similar, if not the same deck as I believe Michael Majors played this at the Modern Pro Tour. And the reason why, like the thing that stuck out to me was the one devastating summons, which is sweet. So that plus Reckless Bushwhacker is just awesome. So I appreciate that. But I was slightly surprised to see the path that he took in the top 8. I believe he defeated Scapeshift, Burn, and Lantern Control.
Well, 2 of those aren't surprising. I would argue all 3 of those actually aren't surprising. Like Scapeshift has to hit an anger or they lose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Burn I think is a favorable matchup in general. Like Burning Tree Emissary, like the name of the game is cast as many spells as you can in a turn, and Burning Tree Emissary lets you win that battle.
Mm-hmm.
And Lantern Control, like that's their hardest match is low to the ground aggro, especially if it has any amount of burn backed up, because like by the time they try to get their game set up, they're a low enough life total that so many cards off the top for the zoo deck is live, and they have to have an ensnaring bridge, or the rest of their game doesn't matter.
Okay.
So.
No, yeah, you're probably right. I mean, I didn't think about. I guess Bushwhacker really turns a lot of those matches.
Yeah, if you're playing like a straight up race like the Burn matchup, and you ever get to go Burning Tree Emissary into Bushwhacker, you probably have won that game.
Yeah,
because the Burn deck just cannot cast as many spells as you already have essentially. Did you see it was in 6th place, Dave?
Oh yeah, Jeskai Thopter Foundry.
Maybe this is the deck you were looking for.
So I mean, this is basically, I guess it's not really the same thing. So Jerry Thompson played. He kind of ran back the blue-white Thopter Gifts deck. Yeah, this is somewhat similar, minus the Gifts Ungiven. Instead, playing some Lightning Bolts and a couple Lightning Helix, playing things like the Johnny Vengeance and Gideonger in the main. So this is more of just basically like a Jeskai control deck playing the Sword of the Meek Thopter Foundry deck, or Sword of the Meek Thopter Foundry combo. Yeah, I don't know. I think I think I like Jerry's list a little bit better still, because being able to like do the gifts for not only just the sword combo, but like being able to just like gifts for like Elish Norn Unburial Rights in some matches.
You don't convince me on gifts.
No, I know. But I think like having those two different angles, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I just like looking at this deck. Like it feels like when they unbanned like sword, like this just feels like a deck like straight out of the past. Like you have like Gideon Joy and Johnny Vengeance back together, and then if you look at the sideboard, you even have like the Periphery nodes come back and Wheel of Sun and
Yeah,
Moon.
sweet Wheel of Sun and Moon tech right there.
Yeah, that old tech on how to beat Sword of the Meek. Like no. Just go tuck that. Just go tuck that.
It's gonna go on the bottom of your deck. You'll find it eventually.
I have to imagine. I had no idea if this is true or not, but is that good against Lantern Control?
I would assume it is. You just like put it and shake yourself.
Yeah,
And they can't mill you out.
Your move.
They must have some way to remove that, right?
Yeah, abrupt again.
Yeah, they're abrupt again, and they have sometimes they have like ratchet bombs.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. But still pretty funny.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely hilarious. Like just like oh. But like it also randomly turns off like opposing snapcasters. It's just like oh no, my spell's gone. Where did you go?
Yeah, but yeah, this list is pretty cool. Though I don't think it's the best Thopter Sword deck, but it's pretty cool. I think, and I think it's a reasonable deck to play in Modern if you're into this kind of stuff. There wasn't anything too crazy here. We did have a Mardu deck in the top 8, which is, I believe...
it's Mardu negative?
Yeah, Mardu minus. I don't know what we're taking out of this, but...
nothing. Someone just wanted to put a dash there, apparently.
Yeah. So this was kind of like Mardu tokens?
Yeah.
So we saw like... was it Ben Stark and Paul Rietzel, I know, played Mardu at the Modern Pro Tour, and did reasonably well with it. Surprising in a field of Eldrazi. Now that particular list I didn't really like. It felt like it was really clunky, and it's kind of just felt like a bad Jund deck. This one is kind of doing something a little bit more unique, where its creatures are 4 Dark Confidant, 4 Young Pyromancer, and 3 Monastery Mentor. It's playing 26 spells, including 3 Lingering Souls. So it's able to really kind of go wide with the tokens. It's also playing Zealous Persecution as a way to, kill their Thopter tokens as well as buffing your team. It's pretty cool. This is a little too Jundy for my taste. It's probably not a deck that I would play. But what I mean by that, it's just kind of like a pile of like removal spells.
I like how you can hear the sneer in your voice. And you're like, it's a little too Jundy for me.
Yeah,
I just
a little too Jundy.
I hate playing decks like Jund.
Yeah.
Huh?
Get the Jund out of here.
Wow. So, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to point out the opposite at
Yeah,
Ghost
that was
Councils.
hot.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
I wanted to mention that the bannings weren't successful.
Oh, yeah.
Eldrazi was in the top 16. Literally the green-red Eldrazi deck that existed at the end of the last format. Still here. Just the same deck.
A little bit slower.
A little bit slower. So there was a copy of Eldrazi Tron in the Invitational 701 lists. And then like this year, so it doesn't surprise me that the Eldrazi list that still shows up is the one that goes bigger, because it's still easier to do that. You can still ramp with talismans. But yeah, there's not a lot different here. Like, they're playing Sanctum of Ugins, which is sort of interesting because you can start chaining your your World Breakers.
Yeah. So they're no longer playing the Eldrazi Mimics since you can't play like 3 of them on turn 1 anymore. But yeah, it's going a little bit bigger. I don't know. I didn't think that this deck would be able to keep up with compare this to kind of like the Burning Tree Zoo deck that we talked about. It's like just seems like it's going to be a step behind at every turn.
I don't think you're wrong. I will say Kozilek's return can help in that matchup because that deck does run a lot more creatures that have 2 toughness than a regular like Zoo deck.
Sure.
And like you get to play it has like Feed the Clan and such out of the board, which is interesting.
I think that'd be more for like the burn matchup though. Like it's
still pretty good against Zoo. I don't know if you ever gained 10 life, but it's pretty good. I know I agree with you. I think it's probably not fast enough, but yeah, if a bunch of the decks are trying to like slowly get to like Thopter Sword or Thopter Sword and they're playing dirtily, and then you just cast World Breaker. You're gonna be like a World Breaker, like okay, World Breaker, trigger on the cast, go get another World Breaker off my Sanctum of Ugin, exile this, and they're like, I guess I'll counter it. I'm like, great, I'll see you next turn. So, Oh, that was kind of interesting. I also think that, and this is going to sound awful since we just had like Ancestral unbanned in the format, but this deck gets to play the best 1-mana cantrip in Modern. I'm going to say that unequivocally.
Yeah.
It gets to
Ancient
play Ancient
Stirrings.
Stirrings in a deck that only has 5 colored spells.
Yeah.
I can take it back. I guess it's 9, including the Ancient Stirrings. My apologies. But even like Kozilek's Return is colorless.
Yep.
So like, when you get to play your deck with that kind of consistency, like people play Oath and Nissa in Standard. What if they could just look at the top 5 instead? You know what I mean? And pretty much get the card they wanted. So I think there's definitely pools to this deck. Not to mention the fact that like, I think this is nice to see this where like people buy into a deck gets banned, quote unquote, and someone's like, you know what? No, deck isn't banned. Still fine. Still playing it, and it does well.
Yeah, I think like so on a similar, not to go off on a tangent, but like similar to that. I mean, there were a decent number of people playing Tron in Modern at the Invitational. We saw Joe Lissette was playing mono green Tron. There were some other people playing, regular red green Tron. Minus the Eye of Ugin. So still seemed to be playable. It's obviously not as good, but I think like maybe some people were like too quick to give up on it. Maybe it is still a reasonable choice. We'll kind of see. Like Modern, I feel like Modern is still kind of shaping up to where it's going to be, but we're starting to see some more of the diversity come back to like what we had prior to the Eldrazi taking over. So.
It's like watching a smoker's lung recover after the tar is slowly fading away, like the Eldrazi. Like it's like reverse completing.
I was gonna go with it's almost like spring is here and the Eldrazi winter is over.
That's much more positive.
Yeah, it's very true.
Like
to be fair,
flowers blooming.
My scenario, a person quit smoking. So
yeah, there you go. That's positive.
We're just describing Morgan's lung.
Yeah.
It looks better now, much like the Modern format.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's go ahead and touch on the Legacy Classic here. It was won by Grixis Delver, piloted by Brian Koval. And I don't know, anything astounding we want to pull from here?
Belcher finished second.
Yeah,
that was surprising.
There's another Belcher list in the top 16 as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's not surprising to see Belcher, but I was surprised to see it finish that highly. Because I mean, it is the definition of all in.
It's the definition of a glass cannon deck.
Yeah.
You literally have a cannon in your deck, and then it kills your opponent, or you die.
Yeah. But nothing too crazy here. I don't think. Joe Lissette finishing 10th. That might have been the most surprising thing that he didn't top it.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean,
Cool.
Legacy's Legacy. It doesn't really change that much. We don't really see anything new. To be completely honest,
Colors Eldrazi to get 4th.
Yeah. I think that's at this point, I think the Eldrazi deck's a staple of Legacy. Yeah, and to be completely honest here, I didn't go into all these lists to see if there was any crazy tech. So forgive me, if it was something out there that was new and exciting. But just from looking at the descriptions of the decks, it doesn't seem to be anything too crazy here.
If there is, I'm sure someone will tell us.
And Star City's been off sometimes with their deck naming, so there might be something cool out there. And if you were playing one of those cool decks, I'm sorry.
Well, at least Delver do well in Legacy.
Oh, Delver's always good in Legacy, man.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. So that's everything for the competitive portion of the show. To kind of finish things out, Mike, you're going to the Pro Tour. Congratulations again. We're all very proud of you. We want to talk about, what you kind of did to get ready.
This also says, and send me off to Madrid. I'm confused. I don't leave till Wednesday.
We're taking you to the airport after this.
Oh, no.
Right after.
Yeah, I hope you packed.
I saw that movie where Tom Hanks had to live in the airport. I want to do that. He ate a lot of crackers and mustard.
I hope you like both those things.
Yeah, I do.
Perfect.
Well, what do you want to know?
So what did you do specifically to prepare?
No, it's okay. So the main thing I started doing was just once I had access to the new standard format in some capacity, I just started putting lists together. I did what I normally do at the beginning of a format. I scoured pretty much anywhere people were talking about standard, forums that I most of the time won't go on because they're miserable. But I went, I go into Reddit, that sort of thing, and start looking for shells. Obviously had some that I wanted to look at. Bank Company was one of them. I'm not as good of a magician as Jim Davis and them. I could not make the mana work, at least not in a way that I felt it. Also, never actually tested the Duskwatch Recruiter, so definitely missed on that. Did test out Tireless Tracker. That card was good enough, but not Duskwatch Recruiter. So sometimes you just you just don't identify a card, and I do feel like that goes with the territory of a lot of this was done, at least primarily on my own to begin with. So, and that's I don't say that as anything like if people are listening like, oh, why would we hope like. This is the real world of people who randomly make the Pro Tour. You know what I mean? Like you try to do your best, but you also work your job and you live your life, and you have dreams of being like an ultra pro, but you're more like upper deck.
I will say, like, you've done a lot more preparation for this than I did in any of my Pro Tours. So, I mean, you should feel fairly confident going in.
The preparation that I do for most events that I'm playing is sort of like well oiled for me now. Like I'm really good at just sitting down and just jamming game after game after game after game, and they don't all have to be high quality games. I definitely say that very early on in testing, if you're playing on programs outside of Moto, you're not always going to play against the best competition, and you're definitely not playing against people who are solid deck builders. But I've said many, many times, at least one of the ways that I've gotten better at playing Magic is that it doesn't really matter what I'm playing against. Sometimes obscure decks cause you to play around cards and force you to think about cards that you wouldn't normally think about, which can be helpful. But it's all about getting reps. And like if you know how to play your deck, it doesn't you have a better chance against any deck that you come against. So I'm a firm believer in just playing games when you have a chance to.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I mean, you were kind of giving me crap about playing 5 matches with Jeskai control, but like I was saying, like you can get at least a decent feel for how a deck's going to play just by like playing a few matches with it. Even if like you're not playing against the best competition, you can kind of like see what some of the play patterns might be. You can see interactions of cards. You can kind of get a feel with like, okay, is this deck too clunky? Do I need to make it a little bit lower to the ground? Lower the curve, whatever. So you can definitely get like something out of it.
Sure. Now, I will say that I did, so through all that testing, I did identify roughly 2 shells that I thought were really good. I was able to make some assessments of the format that I think, which has been very nice, has proven to be true. Identified very quickly that ramp was not a place I wanted to be, and that the deck overall was not positioned where it should be. And yes, it just won the Open, but looking at the numbers, it's not that powerful. Definitely decided that Red Black Vampires was not going to be the aggro deck of the format, and Morgan and I both were quickly able to identify, and Dave too, then able to identify that Humans was the deck. And I think between the deck that I put together, the deck that Morgan was putting together based off some Star City lists, and then finally the deck that Dave decided to play, we actually had a lot of the early blue-white Humans built. So I definitely want to say there's like 3 or 4 decks that between the 3 of us we had those decks, which was that feels. I'm not, I don't want to sit there and ever like oversell myself, but it feels nice to be going in the right direction in the format, to identify cards like I want to play Reflector Mage because I think it's still disgusting in this format, and then you see it taking over the format. And then took that testing into a group that I had made for a couple people who were local ish, including Randall Ruggles, who is also we're staying together in Spain, but also a player who also qualified down here who lives up north, and then another player who I mentioned before, top 8 at Grand Prix Mexico City, who played in Barcelona this weekend. He's already out there. And we definitely, at least, we got a ton of games. And the deck that I've sort of been on, I put in over 100 matches on Moto with. So I really went through trying to fine tune and the list. The list has changed back and forth, but the core has been pretty strong. Now I'm just playing the game of how does the meta look around it? Can it beat the decks that are good right now? It'd be easy just to say like, well, duh, play Bank Company. Like Mike, you qualified for the Pro Tour playing Bank Company. We talked about this last week, but I think Dave and I were discussing like, I don't think I want to play Bank Company. Like its metagame percentage is ridiculous. Now it could just be Callblade, and I could be making a mistake. But I think there's a much higher chance that this Invitational featured almost no pro players. That you're going to see like the teams that are over in Barcelona right now who are testing. If one of them, if those teams, those larger teams, figure out how to beat Bant Company, then to have a chance to do really well at the tournament, you don't want to be playing Bant Company.
Yeah, like I was saying, it feels. I feel like the Pro Tour, there's going to be some deck that we haven't even seen yet, and it feels right now. And I mean, it's still very very early in the format, and we've only had a couple tournaments to kind of go off of, but like it feels similar to like the last Pro Tour that I played in, which was Pro Tour Theros. You know, I played in the Open the week before the Pro Tour, and the metagame was like green white aggro, Esper control, like Naya mid range. And then the Pro Tour was like mono blue devotion, mono red devotion. Just not really. There was some of the same decks, but for the most part, they were like new decks. And like you said, I mean, like these like pro teams are going to keep those under wraps. They're not going to leak anything prior to. So I fully expect to see something new or a twist on something that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, there's always that fear that they like even if you play Bant Company, like I don't think I'm innovating Bant Company, and they may be like maybe if they come with a version of Bant Company, it's going to be different and it probably is going to beat. Yeah, so I just feel like I'm going to try and stay away from that. Obviously the deck is powerful, but I do think sometimes people forget we got lulled into this sort of like after the Pro Tour you were mentioning after Theros then rotates out, etc. Then we just had Abzan win multiple Pro Tours, and people sort of forgot about what a pro team can do. Mm-hmm. But if you look at that, like Mono Blue Devotion, like that Star City team just shifted between them and was it the other Star City team or was it Channel Fireball that had the black deck?
There were like 3 teams, so like
Channel Fireball had Mono Red Devotion.
Yeah, they had Mono Red, so like Star City, and then it was like one of the European teams. I know like Joel Larson was like playing that like the blue black version of like Blue Devotion, and then there was like a French team. Like Team Revolution, I think when they were still like a thing, were on it as well. So a lot of the pro teams had it, but like Blue Devotion that was totally not in my radar.
No, it wasn't a thing. In
that tournament, like round 1, I played against Blue Devotion, and then my opponent went like turn 1 island, judges familiar, and I was like, what is this thing? Like like I don't know what this is about, and then I just got crushed. So I mean.
And I think the same is true then, like of the most recent Pro Tour. Like again, like people sort of forgot for a while what a team can do, and then Eldrazi happened, and it's like, oh no! Like,
I mean, even go back to Pro Tour Magic Origins. We had the blue red Thopter deck that nobody knew about, going in. So again, I think I feel like Standard is wide open. I think we've only had a couple weeks, and it's very, people like I played Humans because I knew it was a solid deck. I didn't try to really innovate or really attack the format at all. I just played a solid deck that, to be fair, I didn't have a lot of time to test, so I just played the deck that I already had and already had played some games with. So, but, I mean, these teams that are already out, in Spain and have been working on this for, a week and a half already, then they're going to be ready to go.
I'm cautiously optimistic about the shell that I've come to. Morgan played at the Invitational, and I think that we've made some changes to the list to sort of counteract Bant Company, and I also don't think it was that bad against it. But obviously had some awkward draws for yourself this week. But you still went 5-3 in Standard, correct?
No.
4-4. 4-3-5. What did I think you said? You know, because never mind. I'm sorry, I misheard you earlier.
Yeah.
And I also know that Ruggles went 3-1 in Standard. Did not do so well in Modern in day 2. But we had a very good showing with the deck. It's some local tournaments the week before. Sort of trying to keep it quiet while also getting some live reps out in the world. We're not some big team. I know a lot of players at the Pro Tour, but I'm certainly not like I know a lot. You know what I mean? Like that's not how that works. So I'm cautiously optimistic that I have a good shell that is under the radar. It feels good to sort of after essentially for the last. After I played 4 Color Dragons in 1 states, last fall.
Mm-hmm.
Hashtag humble brags, I guess.
Hashtag I only finished second.
But hey, I won't be there to fight you for this time. Which can I just say that it's kind of upset about that still. Like I know it's unfair. I know it's totally unfair, but I wish I could defend. Anyways, but after that, I sort of started playing real lists, because I couldn't find something, and I like to brew. I like to play a little outside. Obviously as I've shown, I will play the best deck when I need to play the best deck. But I do feel like going into a Pro Tour, one of the few things I can keep to myself, because I don't think I could pretend to walk in with Bant Company and outplay a lot of people. I'm not saying I couldn't play at their level. I certainly could play at that level. I feel confident in that. But I think I need to give myself a chance to be able to outplay some people too. And playing a rogue deck gives you that ability too. So
Yeah, I was gonna say like, my advice would be don't sell yourself short. Like you deserve to be there, and you've earned your way onto the pro tour. Like my first pro tour, I just played like a red black aggro deck because I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to play these guys, so I'm just gonna play the simplest deck so that I don't make mistakes. But that was just that was just a bad way to think about it, and I didn't do well at my first pro tour. At least in constructed, I did okay in limited, but ended up with a poor constructed record because I didn't really believe in myself that like I could compete. But I think you have the right mindset going in. So
well, I will credit you with that a little bit here because
Okay.
you've given me that pep talk a number of times after like I've gotten frustrated with certain losses and be like, nah, you beat these people and you do this, and like I appreciate that. I don't pretend to feel like I'm not like, oh yeah, but I do feel like I could play with these people. Like so I do not have that fear of like I don't belong there.
Well, yeah, but like when it comes to deck choice, like don't like feel like you can't play a complicated deck because the people that you're playing are better than you. I mean, play what you know, like play what you've been testing. Like don't feel like you have to kind of quote unquote dumb it down.
Sure.
Because like you're playing against pros.
No, and that makes total sense. So, but that's where I was at for constructed. I've now got probably close to 200 matches in with a deck that I'm looking at. So switching now would be fairly ludicrous, but a deck could convince me in the next few days. I will still be trying to test and I obviously have time to play much moto on this large flight that I'm going on. But the other half of that, of course, is draft. And luckily, Morgan has been awesome enough to help me with that the last 2 weeks. We've done some awesome weekend drafts. In the evening after the stores have closed, we have been out there, under cover of darkness, getting a number of reps in, which have been awesome. We fired 5 drafts just personally that way.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well, 6 including an extra F&M one.
Yeah.
I went and drafted all weekend, at the Invitational, and then starting to fire some motor drafts now too. So I definitely don't have nearly the amount of limited reps I in as I do constructed reps in. But the one thing that's felt nice is this format feels really good and feels really intuitive. One of the things I kept remarking on this weekend was that like in an 8-man draft, none of the decks felt super terrible. Like 1 or 2 people would have a deck that was underpowered for sure, but the format like has deep archetypes so that there's more than enough room for multiple good decks at a table, which I didn't feel that way in Battle or Oath, or even like going back before like the Theros or things like that. I felt like you had like 1 or 2 good decks, and then the rest of the decks were just like scraping by. So this format feels great, and that gives me some positivity for it too. Like I'm enjoying it a lot.
Yeah. How do you feel about your first pro tour being with the double face card mechanic when it comes to draft? Is that like
all I know is I don't want to be Trey Van Cleef.
No, like now forgive me because I've only participated in maybe like 1 or 2 of these practice drafts that you've done, but like have you done any anything special when it comes to like the double face cards as far as like how they would call it at the pro tour, or are you just kind of doing it just kind of normal?
Our practice ones, we did the first year. We definitely did the hold 'em up just for the sake of the people at the table, because not everyone was trying to get ready for the pro tour.
Yeah.
But all the drafts they fired this weekend, they didn't have anybody do that, and people were upset about that. They were like, "Well, how am I supposed to know?" And I'm like, "Well, you try to pay attention." I do think like it's awkward that like I literally didn't have the ability to simulate a round table. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which definitely makes it a little bit easier to like survey packs without like looking at someone's pack. You know what I mean? Because like a rectangular table, you have to like turn your head to the right, and there's a person's hand and pack there, and that looks bad. So I've tried to be aware of it. For the most part, I've done a pretty good job, but I will say that there's been I was surprised by a card last night in a draft that we did that I hadn't seen, and I should have seen it because I was playing the person cat a corner of me, but we were in the middle table, so I should have seen that card and I didn't, and I was really frustrated that I didn't see it. So I'm trying to not let that happen. For the most part, I haven't been surprised by anything, but the one last night was the first time I was like, how did I not see this card? And it kind of made me frustrated.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, and I guess you can kind of report back on this better than Morgan or I could see it in the coverage, but like, I guess at the GPs over the weekend, there were like kind of like strict guidelines on like how we're gonna do this. Like basically, in the if you've never done like a called draft before, when they say draft, it means you take a card and then you lay it out. Like, but if you have people that have multiple double face cards, then you kind of want to see like what what the person on your right is gonna take, or the person next to you are gonna take before making your selection. So it'd be interesting to see if like any situations arise coming from that, with people not taking a card immediately or like maybe hesitating and waiting to see. And it's kind of like a chicken game where it's like, no, I'm not going to take it till you take it.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I will say the other thing with it too is like signaling is interesting with those cards. Like I said, so I got lucky in my first draft this weekend and opened an Archangel Avacyn first pick, and of course we were holding our cards up. So, or no, we weren't holding our cards up. I apologize, but that was a different draft. My apologies. But anyways, I drafted it. But the person to the left of me, and the person to the right of me were like, "Oh, you got an Avacyn?" So of course the whole table knows I got an Avacyn, and they jumped out of white. Like, could not get out of that color fast enough. The entire table. I played mono white with 4 blue cards and won the draft. And like at the Pro Tour, I think there's a much higher chance of the person to my right seeing Avacyn and then cutting me as hard as they possibly can. Now, it doesn't mean I can't still play white, because pack 2 should be pretty good for me. But yeah. I do think you have a higher chance of somebody playing that game with you. Whereas, like, I think, at that sort of event that I was at, people would be like, oh, we has this mythic. I don't want to, I'm not going to take white cards. He'll have them all. But they don't realize that if you're like 3 or 4 players down anyways, then it didn't matter in the first place.
I actually would go the other way with it. I think, like, if somebody sees that you have an Avacyn, they would probably jump out of white. I think there's a lot less hate drafting.
I don't think it's hate drafting. I think it depends on the pack, but I do think it's more likely that someone would try to cut me than it was in any other random draft. People in a PT aren't going to be like, oh, he's got an Avacyn, he can't possibly lose now. You know what I mean? Like,
right. But I mean, I think, like, I don't know. I don't think that's the right strategy. Like to directly cut.
I'm certainly not saying. Yeah,
it could happen, sure. But I think it's less likely to happen at a Pro Tour versus like your normal F&M draft.
Not just that though. Again, like all 8 people jumped out of white.
That's weird. Like the person like sitting across the table from you, like 4 seats away, shouldn't be worried about it. Really.
No, exactly. And like, 4 seats away from me actually has to play me, right? So they actually probably are worried about it, but not in the sense they can draft. But like I played against white in the finals, but the guy was like blue white, where I was white blue. So it was just weird to see the table just sort of like. Like, I don't know, like the red carpet came out and I just got to like, like, do. No, it'll be interesting for sure to see that though and how people react to it. Hopefully there won't be any of those awkward situations. And we did a number of our practice drafts as call drafts, because call drafts are the greatest thing to ever be in drafting. Like, it's great. And we did some, we've also done some practice, obviously with, laying out. I've done a number of time drafts. Like, I don't feel worried about that at all.
Yeah, I said that on here before. Like, with people that aren't used to doing the call drafts, or if you've never day 2 to GP or played on the Pro Tour, it can be a little different because you can't look at your deck while you're making your picks. You can only review your deck, in between packs. And if you're not used to that kind of thing, and like if you're not used to kind of remembering what's in your deck, things can go south. They're like, oh, wait, I don't have any 2-drops going into pack 3. Yeah, it can get a little awkward. So definitely getting some reps in with that is helpful for sure.
Awesome. Do you have any expectations for the Pro Tour?
I want to say like really like super confident, like I'm gonna blank. I expect.
I like that. I'm gonna blank.
Yeah, right.
You fill in the blank, listener.
I expect today 2. 4-4 record. I feel that should not be too difficult. It will. Let me rephrase. It will be difficult, but I think that is an attainable expectation. I would like to cash. Like, that would make this feel. I don't know. Like, obviously getting to the Pro Tour level has been like, I don't know. We've had this discussion before about like having goals in the game, and I feel like I've sort of hit those goals pretty consistently. Like I want to do, a while back, like day 2 at GP, then cash GP and get pro points, and then do this, and now get to the Pro Tour, and so now it's like, okay, well, who knows if I get a chance to go back. So I'd like to, leave it all. You don't have to go like sports, metaphor on you, but like, just want to leave it all out there, give 110%. You know what I mean? Just like, thank God, just gotta, he's the man. He's out there in my corner.
One game at a time.
One game at a time. You gotta, my mom always said, you gotta just like, keep on, and just gotta talking, I don't know, metaphors and euphemisms the entire time. But in all reality, like, I don't want to, I'm nervous, but I don't want to let that affect me to the point where I feel like I mentioned before, the last match, or the last game I played in the RPTQ, that I played super conservatively because like I thought I was winning, but I was doing the old Cleveland Browns playing not to lose, and I could have punted that game doing that as opposed to just playing the game I want to play, and I don't want to ever get into my own head like during this like, well, if you lose here you don't get day 2, and then start playing miserably because of it. So I just want to make sure I can keep my head clear.
Yeah, like you just want to try to. I mean, and obviously, I don't know how you're going to feel when you're playing, but what I tried to do is I just tried to. I didn't try to think about the result, or like I didn't try to think about getting to a specific record or anything, and like you really, I mean, just try to focus on the game that you're playing, and don't really worry about the overall big picture. I guess is just try to kind of just bring it down to that one game. And I mean, I'm not, and I never really was trying to be like a pro Magic player, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't trying to get on the train and chain Pro Tours together and stuff like that. And I don't know if that's what you're trying to do. But, and I guess like when you don't have that pressure on you to like, you have to do well in order to qualify for the next Pro Tour, it's kind of just like, all right, well, I got a cool trip to Spain, and I get to play Magic on the professional level, one of the highest stages in the game, and I get to play with people from around the whole world, and these are the best people, playing Magic. So, I mean, I think that's pretty cool, and I always had the just the mindset of just I'm just going to do my best, and you'll see where it shakes out. So.
And that's good advice. I can fall victim to the mindset of like wanting to, like, I want to definitely try to at least, I'm not going to be there. I don't have the time to unfortunately take a ton of extra days, but I do want to make sure I enjoy the trip a little bit. And I know myself, and I can definitely stop that from happening. So, sound advice.
Yeah. Follow-up question. What are you going to bring us back?
I want that sweet dice tin.
Something Spanish.
Cool. Please don't make it like an illness.
The Spanish flu?
Yeah, I don't want that.
How about, ready for this? Here's very Magic themed. I'll bring you both an Inquisition. A Spanish Inquisition, if
that'd
you will.
be great.
That'd be fantastic.
I'd take it.
No one
No one suspects it. I
No
get
one
it. No,
suspects it,
you
yeah,
got it. You
yeah.
got it. Congratulations.
primarily the chief tools of the Inquisition are surprise. Well, okay. The things that okay. Well, so primarily they. Never mind. I'm going to stop.
Anyway, I think that's all we really had for discussion on that. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about your upcoming trip?
Wish me luck. No, when I say that, I mean very honestly. A ton of players locally have reached out to me to say like, "Hey, congrats and good luck," and those sorts of things. And I don't know. I appreciate that. I really do. Like, I don't consider myself any sort of like big thing. Like, I'm not like Rocky going to go fight the Russians here. But
I mean, like,
if you can change, or if I can change, I got a lot of head trauma.
No, I mean, my advice, I guess, to wrap it up would be just enjoy the experience. It's playing on the Pro Tour. It's not like any other tournament you're going to play in, except for maybe the World Championship. That's a little harder to get to,
soon.
but
no.
But yeah, just enjoy it. It's different. It's just a different atmosphere. So I'm sure you'll know what I'm talking about when you're done. So it's hard to explain.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I'm excited for the podcast that we have when you come back, when you're all like horribly jet lagged and don't know, can't sleep properly.
I'm not coming over here at like 2 a.m. to record. So hopefully we can wait a couple of days and let you get acclimated back to the time over here.
Hopefully, but I think it's a good note to sort of end on. So speaking of the Pro Tour, it is going to be this weekend. Starts Friday. Live coverage is 9 a.m. local time, 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So have fun with that.
So that's like okay if you're on the East Coast. If you're on the West Coast, it starts at midnight. It's a little gross.
So I'm expecting my wife to be up in front of the TV at 3 a.m.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, a wife who really loves me would do that.
Wow, that's okay.
I may never even once be on coverage. Probably will never be once be on coverage, but I still feel like she needs to be watching all of it.
I mean, like if it comes down to it, you could always like run onto the stage and just kind of like, not like a streaker, but like you could at least just, yeah, like you could just bring like a sign that says like hi mom, or whatever. Just be in the background.
I was just talking about my wife, but yeah, hi mom sounds good.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say you could do that too.
Hi wife doesn't have the same ring to it.
Not really, no.
But if you are not going to the Pro Tour, there are still things to do in the lovely state of Ohio, like Star City Games States. There will be Saturday Standard and Sunday Modern. These tournaments will be run by Comic Town, and you can come down and play in either event. They will be held at the Greater Columbus Convention Center, which is awesome. So definitely come down. You can play in both, play in one, whatever you like. I think I'm going to play Modern.
Been pretty hot in Modern, would you say?
Yeah. I want to see if the hot streak continues.
I'm just getting the disappointed head shake.
I feel like I'm warming up.
He's on fire.
Thank you. I was hoping you would finish that NBA Jamism. Anyway, so those will be great to participate in. I believe registration probably opens at 9.
Starts at 10.
Player meeting at 10. Typical fare. Typical fare for most Magic tournaments. And entry probably around 30. Because we're professional. Don't worry. I'm looking it up. Don't worry.
I'm sitting there mouthing the words like, I assume this. I was like, cool.
What? That's not good enough?
Hey, sponsored by Comic Town. So far, a good investment this episode.
Yeah. I thought so.
Well, while you're looking that up, I will say, much like the last, I believe it was Star City Regionals was happening while the last Pro Tour was happening, and we saw kind of like some of the Eldrazi decks make their way. Even though we didn't have the exact list at the time, I expect it to be similar here, where some of the standard decks that we see on Friday will show up at whichever state you're in playing.
Yeah.
On standard Saturday. So
just so you know, I was exactly right. Players meeting is at 10, so registration was at 9, and it's $30 cash only.
Just so you know, language makes a big difference. It is this, or I don't know, it could be this. One of those is a much better statement.
Well, we made it a better statement now.
Yeah, we fixed it.
Hashtag fixed.
Hashtag edited out.
No. It's gonna stay there.
Nah.
It's too comedic to leave out. And there's also going to be side events that are happening, throughout the day at those tournaments as well. So definitely you'll have something to do regardless of what you want to play over the weekend.
Good luck to all of you in playing the Standard States Championship. Whoever wins, shoot me a message. We'll get together. We'll clink our medals, and we'll get some milkshakes.
And I also want to say good luck to all other Pro Tour competitors that listen to us. I don't know, probably not very many of you, but I wish you the best of luck. But I hope Mike beats you all. So
hey, that's a good friend. Jordan said he wouldn't take me in a prop bet. I'm like, really? Thanks, bud. But he's right.
Anyway,
hey man, If Frank Laporte can top 8 his first Pro Tour, you can do it too.
That actually is oddly inspirational.
Anyway, that'll put an end to our show. If you want, you can follow us on Twitter. We are at @YourEndStep. We also do have a email address, just @YourEndStep@gmail.com, or a website, @YourEndStep.com. We are also on Facebook. Just do a search for @YourEndStep and we'll come up. Come like our page. Leave us a comment. We appreciate it. While you're on Facebook, please do a search for Collingtown Gaming Center if you want to know more about the state and provincial championships that will be happening over the weekend, or any other upcoming tournaments in the greater Columbus area. Also, if you could, leave us a review on iTunes. We do appreciate it. It helps us out over on our end to gain more popularity and get more people listening to our show and getting more fans of At Your End Step. That'll be everything this week. We thank you so much. You have a great one. Bye.